All right, so this is episode 3 of Dredging Deep. Today we have Lou Nash with Measutronics. Recently we've been partnering with Lou. I say recently, but we've been working with Lou for several years. But recently we've done a lot of work with Lou and Measutronics with positioning and sonar. So we brought Lou in to give us a little history and tell us about Measutronics and some of the exciting stuff that we're working on. Lou?
All right, John. Thanks for having me up today. So Measutronics, we started in 1997, and really it was just myself, mostly doing tech support for Trimble products, Trimble navigation at the time. And it was me on the tailgate of a pickup truck, really. And over time, I was mostly working on land. Mm-hmm. But somewhere along the way, one of the Trimble sales managers realized that my background, I'd come from a lot of time in the Navy, where I was a deck officer on an aircraft carrier for about 30 months, and then ship's navigator on a destroyer for 2 years. And there on the destroyer is when I got exposure to my first exposure to GPS. Left the Navy, went back to school, came out of school, had a number of different jobs, knowing that I wanted to start a business at some point. And that's when, like I said, in 97, I formed a company based on tech support for Trimble. I was a certified trainer for Trimble. They had outsourced all of their training. But then over time, the Trimble sales manager realized that, I had a background on the water, and asked me would I focus on marine products. And I didn't really know. And I actually took a trip to a trade show in Providence, Rhode Island. Spent about a day and a half or so there, just talking with different equipment manufacturers and people that I bumped into, and I understood what was going on. I understood what it was all about, and I looked at it and I said, yeah, this could be a good way to make a living, and again, kind of return to what my background had been, having spent a lot of time on the water. So I went back to Trimble and said, yeah, let's do this. But with that, I knew at the time that I wanted a dealership with Trimble, and so in 2001 it was now. Trimble gave little old Measutronics a marine dealership, and it was our focus, and it's been our focus ever since. So we're 27 years now, mm-hmm. And we truly focus on the marine market. It's a niche market, right?
Right.
So moving on, really the first marine system that I did was a dredge in Florida. I learned a lot during that install, and then really focused a whole lot on dredge systems for a number of years.
Right.
And then as we evolved, I started adding people as I could and as it made sense. We're 11 people now. We're still a small company, but with a big footprint, and again a true focus on marine applications and the niche.
I think that's really what drew us to Measutronics, was that you although you're a smaller company, 11 people, it's everybody there has their qualifications, and it's a well orchestrated execution of applications from you guys when we bring you in to set one up. It just, everybody knows what they need to do and knows the equipment well. You've obviously spent a ton of time training a ton of time bringing your crew along, and that's really what drew us to you guys getting going.
Yeah. So yeah, thanks, John. And our people really are our strength. And they are all real good at many things. They come in. Our techs typically come in with a strong electronics background or a strong survey type geomatics background. And then over time, they kind of morph into being strong in both of those. So our techs are really kind of Swiss Army knives in that they can do a lot of different things.
Right.
And then our support staff as well. The folks back in the office, they understand what the guys in the field need, and they work well as a team, making sure we go out the door. The guys go out the door with what they need, and they have the support back in the office for stuff they can't handle themselves in the field.
And you have an office in Florida, and then another office on the West Coast.
That's right. We keep our main office is Lakeland, Florida, so we're central between Tampa and Orlando airports. And our second office is Vancouver, Washington, where it's kind of a mini version of what we have in Florida. But yeah, up there we're kind of servicing customers in the Pacific Northwest.
That lets you really cut down probably on time when it takes to get to that side of the states.
It does, and actually also it's a benefit in that there's 3 hours in time difference. So
Right.
It gives us a full, really a 12-hour period of each
I got you.
day in North America that we've got somebody on the clock,
Right.
at a minimum. So it really helps on the support side of things.
So, what do you got, looking forward in the next, 5 years? What do you see happening?
Well, we've been through a couple different, I guess, progressions where we've added to the offerings. First one along was, we were doing quite a few dredges, and the thrust of our business was dredging. And I wanted to grow the company, and I knew I had to do something. It was going to take something to move beyond where we were. And thinking that through, the answer came out, okay, we need to get into some of the advanced underwater imaging type applications. So we went to multi-beam sonar. We brought on the people to run gear. We bought boats, big trucks to pull boats, buildings to keep boats in, and then started bringing on the equipment and learning that part of the business. And I would bet we spent probably a year or more just learning, how multi-beams come together and what all it takes to get quality images, and before we ever, put it out there as an offering. So one thing that, throughout the company entirety is that, we don't put anything out there that we don't sell anything we don't own, and we don't put anything out there until our guys are proficient in operating it. And with that, our techs, they're very hands-on.
Right.
So when they're not on somebody else's site, they're at our facilities, one of our two facilities, putting together, the next system or the next configuration, or kind of looking at the next issues we're going to be facing. And we kind of have in my office, I have what I call a secret whiteboard.
Right.
And I've got a list of stuff that, okay, this is what's coming, and this is what we need to be
Sure.
looking at. So the guys are always doing that, and I think that's probably one of the reasons our guys are long term, our techs, and I really think it's the challenge of what we throw at them on any given day that keeps them going and keeps them coming back, showing up every day.
Showing up every day. Yeah, that's right. Well, I know that on the dredge side, we've been working with you and your team on a number of different solutions for dredge owners, for both mines as well as contract dredging. And we've come up with a lot of interesting feedback and information from people in the field and users and manufacturing guys and everything. I think that it's going to be interesting over the next little bit to see, what offerings kind of stick out there and what kind of fades away. But I do see, no matter what, I do see that sonar is going to become a bigger portion of what we see out there, particularly in mines, although it's not for everybody.
Right. And like I said, sonars was our first bump, the underwater imaging, and that was, excuse me, that was it was about 2008 when we took that on. And then with that, we kind of, I guess, focused on what we'd call now traditional classic type multi-beam applications. But we learned how all the sensors work together. And it does take a full suite of sensors and then quite a bit of math to get it all going and right. And the guys are good at that. And then we ended up, I guess the next bump that we started looking at was about 2004. I'd been to a trade show and we'd done a couple of projects with sonars that we created a motion for the multi beams on rails, rails alongside of barges, and the first one was a large barge that we were doing a rock placement over a pipeline, and checking grade of the stone as it was being placed, which is a huge time saver, and had a pretty elaborate rail that ran the entire length of the barge, this big festooned cable system, and thanks, Joe, for teaching me that word back in the day. But this big cable system that it literally ran up and down the barge, and as they placed stone and before they moved the barge, they made sure that everything was to grade and it worked.
Right.
We supported that project. We went to another project a little bit later, placing stone on a fish spawning area on a river in Idaho, and we'd done that from our West Coast office. And the issue there is they were placing stone through a moon pool on a barge with an excavator, and traditionally they would just touch bottom with a long stick excavator to kind of as-build their way as they're going. But this water depth prohibited that. The stick wasn't long enough. So they needed a way to do it. And again, we put a multi-beam, traditional multi-beam on rails that went back and forth across the moon pool. And it was quite a science experiment. We had, I think all told, there were 3 different softwares and a whole bunch of things going on with data going just all over the place to get this done.
So that was a custom application.
It was custom, but it taught me at the time, how else would they have done this? So it taught me at the time that, okay, there's a real market here for this.
Something you said earlier, you were talking about 2008. Now, you were putting sonar on barges back in 2008. Is that right? Or before that?
Before that. So, yeah, this was, the first one that I referenced was 2002, I think. It was whatever year, the first time the Bucks won the Super Bowl.
That's well, I mean,
it was
that's going back. Yeah.
And then it was about 2004, I believe, that we did the one in Idaho.
Okay.
And then late that year, 2004, I went to a trade show. So the ones we had done thus far were, I knew then it was a good application. There was a need, even though a niche, right?
Yeah.
But there was a trade show and some marketing that instead of putting a sonar on rails and pushing it, having it move up and down rails, the motion could be created mechanically with a pan and tilt type unit.
Yeah.
And I said, wow, if we had that on a barge,
right,
and then we could interface it to a software,
right,
instead of multiple softwares.
Yes.
Just kind of streamline it, then we would have something. So we did our first application of that in 2005.
So there's kind of a misconception in the dredge community then that this is new technology. It's really not. I mean, there's new stuff to it, but it has been done and is being done for literally 20 years.
It It has. It's yeah. Our first was 2004, the first one that we did on our own.
Right.
But I will preface, there's a distinction. Our applications then, our installations were in support of marine construction.
Right.
A little bit different animal than dredging.
Right.
So placing materials, but making sure they get them in the right place and to grade so that they're not wasting material.
Right.
Right.
Interesting.
And since then we've seen the same need in dredging to an extent. But the issue we've come across in dredging with this particular type of application is it's really twofold. It's biggest one is price point.
Right.
The big construction projects we put this on, the budgets there, they warrant the cost of the equipment we've installed.
Sure.
And we've saved them a lot of money, and nobody's ever wanted to give one back. Right.
Right.
But price point a bit too much for the dredging applications we've come across, and then still the usability of it all. I mean, the technology is there, but it's still not streamlined. The workflow still needs to be improved a bit to make it a bit more user friendly.
Right.
The technology does not run itself.
Right.
And regardless of the application, somebody's got to do a bunch of measurements to get all these sensors tied together and dial in. And that's our name. We're Measutronics.
Right.
Our guys understand the survey and geomatic side of it.
Right.
And they understand the sonar side of it.
Perfect.
So with that, they put it together, and it's successful.
Well, Lou, I tell you, we're sure excited to partner with you guys on these offerings, and there's going to be more of information and more stuff out there shortly on exactly what all we're going to have. But thanks for coming in today and talking with me. Like I said, there's going to be a bunch more to do, so we're excited.
Well, you're welcome, John, and thanks for having me. And hi, Mom.
Yeah, hi, Mom. Yeah, exactly. All right, very good, awesome.